But the English word love is way too big of a word to effectively describe marital relationship interaction. Relationships can exist where there is no love. I have a relationship with my car dealership for my 2 free oil changes that I get every year. I have a relationship with them. Do I love them? Nah, I'm not gonna lay down my life for them. I'm not there to create affordance of choice for the car dealership. I know some of the people there. I know their first names. I can walk in and say, "Hello, so and so." So I have a relationship with them. Am I in a loving relationship with them? No, I'm in a transactional relationship with them. And if it's friendly and if it blooms into friendship, great. But that's not why we have a relationship. We have a relationship so I can get my 2 free oil changes and whatever else I need with my car. You understand? We have relationships that don't have love. And true love expects nothing in return and cannot be exchanged for anything. Therefore, you can have love with no relationship. Now, the word transaction is a very dirty word when it comes to relationships. We don't like to say it. It's what these divorce lawyers, James Sexton, he says, let's say the quiet part out loud. There is a quiet part that we never like to say, like when you go to apply for a job, you never go up to the employer and say, "Hey, I want you to give me as much money as possible in exchange for the least amount of work possible." You don't say that, but that's exactly what everybody's doing, and that's what everybody knows everybody's doing, but we don't say it. We don't come out and say it because it kind of ruins the chemistry of the thing. There's societally polite things to do. So what we're going to do today is we're talking about how things actually are, and there are a lot of components to relationships that we are going to say out loud today that typically do not get said out loud, or people are two reasons they don't get said out loud. Some of them don't sound polite when you say them, and also we fool ourselves. We have deceived ourselves into pretending that these realities aren't realities. We're going to step out of that today. We're going to look at how are things? How are they? So the word transaction is a dirty word when it comes to relationships. It conjures up images of anything from mercenary to toxicity to narcissism, even psychopathy, and kind of sounds like even prostitution to some degree. So we don't like the word transactional when it comes to relationships. And I understand why. We need to be mature about this. We need to face the facts. Relationships are transactional, and I'm going to show you that. And if you understand this going into marriage, it's really going to help you. Very much going to help. It's like having a budget where you tell your money where to go. It helps you to know these things, to know what you're dealing with. So we're here to help. We're not here to turn everybody into psychopaths who just have transactional relationships and use people. We're not, but you need to know what's happening. So, however, the more mature and aware a person is, the more we see the reality for what it is. And I'm going to show you some examples here in a second. Now, let's look at the difference between love and relationship. The difference between love and relationship. You need to understand this difference. True love expects nothing in return and cannot be exchanged for anything. Relationship is the medium where unequal goods of similar value are exchanged. Don't you have a relationship with your spouse? It is not purely true love. There's something being exchanged. And we're going to look at what this is. And this video, by the way, is going to go in our relationship playlist also, not just the Colossians playlist. If a person truly loves someone else, they want what's best for the best parts of that person. What is best for the best parts of that person might involve letting them go and foregoing the relationship because it isn't what's best for them. Let's face it. You might not be the absolute best thing for another person, but you're still in relationship with them. If you really love them, sometimes really loving somebody means letting them go. I think there's a movie where the guy puts a woman on a plane with another man at the end of the movie because even though he would like for himself to be with her, he knows that it's in her best interest not to be with him, so he sends her off with somebody else. That's true love. True love can exist where there's no relationship. So we got to get this out of our head that love and relationship necessarily go together because they do not necessarily go together. It's great when they do, but they don't necessarily go together. If we take relationships seriously, we need to be mature about it and be honest with ourselves that relationships are transactional in nature. Our concepts of love and romance are very much a sublimation of religious tendencies toward that which is ever unobtainable into human objects of obsession. In other words, there's a religious tendency toward the unobtainable godliness, the unobtainable absolute oneness with God that we would just love to experience. And this unobtainability is kind of a romantic gesture. And we have taken this religious notion, this religious tendency, and we have injected it into the person that we're in relationship with in a marriage situation. Now, there are historic reasons for this, which we cannot take the time to get into right now, but historically, a good argument could be made that our our mindset of this kind of thing really came about right around the 1200s. Not going to get into that right now. So let's get into the transactional aspect of this. Think about a relationship, and there are things I want you to consider. So, love is too big of an English word. It helps us to use words other than love to describe what we what we might want in a marriage relationship. And some of these words, now this is not an exhaustive list, but this is just an exemplary list, all without distinction, not all without exception for you Calvinists out there. What might you want in a marriage? You might want companionship, friendship, intimacy, partnership, affection. By the way, partnership is the number one romantic fantasy of men. And men are more romantic than women, by the way. I'm speaking psychologically, anthropologically, and across the board. I'm not saying that there aren't women who are more romantic than men, but generally, men tend to be more romantic than women. But also note this, it's important to understand romance, our concepts of romance and this obsession with the other person, this religious tendency in sublimation. If you look in history of narratives and stories, how do the romances end? They're usually tragedies, okay? And there's a reason for that. Your content continues right after this. This video is a short segment of a longer one. The full-length video is in the description below. We're moving all content on relationships, growth, and transformation to our new channel called BTF Grow and Relate. Future content in these categories will also be posted there, so subscribe and hit the bell icon to that channel to stay updated. Our website, Beyond the Fundamentals, offers valuable resources including our reading list and glossary to help digest our content. For personalized help, we offer paid one-on-one consultations. Just visit the website, scroll to the consultation section, and fill out the form to book a session. If you find our content valuable, please consider supporting us financially. It takes time and resources to create this content, and donations help make it possible. Supporters also receive an invitation to our weekly FSI group sessions. You can donate via the QR code or visit our donate page on the website, which offers 5 electronic ways to give. If you prefer another method, send me an email for more options. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and X, formerly known as Twitter. And now back to the content. And before this religious sublimation got injected into relationships, the Greeks saw being in love, being what you might call being struck with limerence, as being hit with an arrow by Cupid, like it's a wound, like you've been shot in a battle. To feel this extreme twitterpation or limerence, or feeling of longing and desire and yearning for this other person, they saw this as like an illness, like a very negative disposition, to be a disadvantage, to be struck with this. And that's something you don't want. Just information. Do with it what you will. So what else? What might we want? Companion, friendship, intimacy, partnership, affection, attraction, adoration, desire, help, assistance, conversation, connection, chemistry, meaning, loyalty, respect, trust, support, patience, adventure, security, collaboration, playfulness, honesty, forgiveness, attentiveness, presence, kindness, excitement. Those are just some examples. Now, for those who like the romantic idea that marriage is not transactional, you tell me, how many things could you cross off this list as receiving from a potential partner and still be interested in a marriage? You say, oh, we're in love with each other and our relationship is not transactional. Okay, it's not transactional. Let's say you're no longer getting loyalty. You still interested? Let's say you're not getting honesty. Are you still interested in a relationship? Let's say you don't get kindness from them. Are you still interested? Let's say there's no attraction. Are you still interested? Do you see what I'm saying? If you are not interested, what if you have no security? What if you don't have any support? What if there's no trust? What if there's no respect? You see, if you're not interested in a relationship, once I start crossing these things off the table, you are interested in a transactional relationship. You want something back. What does that mean? That means it is not pure love. It is a transactional relationship. In any kind of relationship, we defined this a minute ago, any kind of relationship is the medium where unequal goods of similar value are exchanged. And what do some of those look like in a marriage? They look like some of these things. That's what they look like. Unequal goods of similar value are exchanged. I like receiving conversation from Paula. I give, she gives. We're both providing this to each other. We both like conversations with each other. If we stopped offering this in return, the relationship would probably end. Doesn't mean that I don't love her. Doesn't mean that I wouldn't continue loving her. But without some of these things, there could be no relationship. And, oh, our relationship is not transactional. Then you don't have a relationship. You can love somebody from a distance. You can send them on a plane with somebody else and love them from a distance. That might be what's best for them. So if you are in relationship, you are transacting something. And maybe some of these things are the things that you are transacting. Do you not expect to get these from your partner? I expect some of these. I expect a lot of these things from my partner. And if they weren't there, there would be no relationship. Are you following me? So there's some differences between men and women. And it could be because of, some of this stuff in our society that we've like thousands and thousands of years of society being shaped by certain things, or maybe something that's biologically instilled in us. But it turns out that even after the invention of the tractor and the pill and all this kind of stuff, where things are more equaled out on a gender basis in society, there are still certain realities that tend to be the case. And for example, men still are expected to approach women. Men are still expected to, even though women are earning as much as men in many, many cases, men are still expected to exhibit chivalry, pay for the first date, and or subsequent date, all kinds of things that we still expect differently from men and women without it ever being stated explicitly out loud. You got to let this stuff sit with you for a few months. Okay, because it's not what we're used, it's not the way we're used to talking. Women tend to be the gatekeepers of sexual opportunity. They've done studies where, and what I'm talking about is society, right now in society, the way people are in society, women tend to be the gatekeepers. I'm not saying there aren't exceptions. I'm not saying there aren't women out there, but they do these studies where they would take a beautiful woman up to 100 men and ask if they would be willing to be intimate with them, and all of the men, nearly all of the men say, yes, I would be willing to do that. They do the same thing in reverse. Take a very attractive guy who looks like he's rich, all kinds of things, to a bunch of women, ask if they would be willing to be intimate with them right there. Almost all the women say no. So the willingness factor is very different for women and men. Women are much more threat sensitive. There's all kinds of things going on. So women tend to be the gatekeepers of sexual opportunity. And so society might implement something like, well, sexual opportunity could result in having a baby. So let's have an official threshold beyond which sexual intimacy can occur, and that is marriage, because we don't want to be producing any babies. Well, now we've got the pill. Now we can have this kind of thing without babies being produced. So now how does that affect human behavior? And in our culture, men tend to be the gatekeepers of commitment. And this may sound crass, but this is kind of why men are bragging about their body count and women like to show off their rings. That's the way our society is structured right now. Women are always wanting the commitment out of men, and men are looking for that, sexual opportunity in our society. It's kind of driven. It's in people's biology that they behave this way. It's in your, like, if you watched our video about the body brain and the mind brain, this is your body brain that is like this. Whether you want it to be or not, doesn't matter how you were enculturated. There's certain things about our body brain that are just biological reality. So this slide is a very, very important slide. Before we move on to other information, I need to make sure that everyone has integrated this information. Relationships, there are differences between men and women, and relationships are transactional. If you have a relationship, you are transacting something. And it's not evil, mean, or rude, or psychopathic, or narcissistic to say this. It is a reality. If we can start crossing stuff off this list and you're no longer interested in a relationship, because then yes, you're admitting that it is transactional. So get used to saying that.